Bettina. You will be sharing your experiences as somebody who is a highly sensitive person and also somebody who has developed the inner ear. Doesn't have to be the inner ear in one's head, but there are many, you have accompanied many people and you have experience about what this means. And you will share a lot, and we will try to keep the mood, to open the space and see how this develops. And the participants, you are invited to join us into this space, into this mood, and to write down the English, to write down your questions. So you have brought, you have permission, Bettina, to permission to comment. So Bettina would like us all to have paper and pencil ready. So Bettina, you have a lot of experience, a lot of life experience. And you said to me, I will mention a few key words. You come out of a bonus family, and you are a trial child, and you played with two little creatures, Glitzer and Glitzerbolle. And you have all these life pictures. You studied eurythmy, you are a yoga teacher, a dance teacher, and you do something called souling. And you have tried to be a normal mother. And then suddenly there's a whole space that you can fill with highly sensitive people. And perhaps we just take that as our leading thought and look if we can follow that or if we land completely somewhere else. And when you wrote to me, you are the 11th child in a bonus family. And I would like to know, what is a bonus family? So before I answer that question, I'd like to welcome you all and wish us all a good evening together, and that you might have your questions in the chat. And to thank Theo, who has this amazing format. And I've known about this for 3 years, and he's put this out into the world, which is something very special. And I'd like to thank the translators, Roseanne, that's me, Pauline, Anastasia, and Monica in the background, and Diego, who is helping. And one knows that how wide this spreads out into the world. So the 11th child of a bonus family. A bonus family is, and this comes from the Swedish word, a better version, when there are added family members that have joined the family, and to be able to be in conversation. Perhaps they are stepchildren, step-parents, and then you have a patchwork family. And I feel it's not quite such a nice word, patchwork family. I prefer the word bonus family. And all the bonus family members that I received stayed for a while. So for about 20 years, I had a lot of extra family members. And when I wasn't asked about this. I just had to take it. And after 10 years, I was the 11th child, and that is a bonus family. And despite the fact of having so many siblings, I had this 10-year difference between me and the others. I was alone at home because of this 10-year difference. And I had a bonus father and my mother. And they came at festivals. And so I never really lived with them. I didn't really have any siblings with whom I could share things. They were all 10 years older than me. And the grandchildren were 10 years younger than me. So 20 years is quite a long time when nobody was there who I could share with. And my parents were very old by this time. And as the 11th child, you're not really important. You can do what you like, and this has pro and contra. And what was it like as a child? This could go in two ways. On the one hand, I had quite a possibility because my bonus father was already pensioned and he was at home. He was a graphic artist, and I often accompanied him and was able to go into his studio and was often with him when he went out into nature. I could sit next to him and look at what he was working on, and to be inspired by what he was doing. Time and place disappeared, and as he was painting. And these moments, they much later, these were a real treasure to me. I realized how much of a treasure they were. And that was a very positive aspect, which I only recognized later. And the shadow side, I don't really want to go into that, but of course it is there. So was this at the time that you were playing with these little beings, Glitzer and Glitzerbolle, with your bonus at the time of your bonus father? Yes, that's right. So from the age of 3 till 6, I had these little beings, Glitzer and Glitzerbolle, and I would call them beings. They were my playmates. And as far as I knew, they were on my, if somebody came in and wanted to sit on my bed, I'd have to say, no, you can't sit there, because Glitzerbolle, who was the good one, is sitting there. Or maybe it was Glitzer, and that was the baddie, the bad one. So one was good and one was bad. I don't quite know why I had one bad one. What did they look like? I don't know. You played with them, but you didn't know what you looked like. They were there. I felt them. I knew that they were there, but I didn't see them. Six or 8 years, they were there for me. They were very important playmates for me, a whole part of my life. And how does one play with somebody that you don't see? How did I play with them? We had dialogues. an inner voice within me, and I really felt them quite clearly. My inner voice. I could I could work out what was good, what was bad, what was less good. I can't remember it so clearly, but I do know they were very much part of my life, and they were accepted by my mother and by my bonus father. They didn't speak about them, but they did accept them. It would certainly be very interesting to go more deeply into this. And it's not just my thoughts, but to have the Glitzer and Glitzerbolle. I don't see them, and yet they occupy space. We don't see them. They sat on my bed, and I didn't want anybody else to sit on on top of them. They would have squashed them. So there you were as a child. On one hand, you had this aspect that you're saying 10 years above you, 10 years below you, and inside of you, a rich inner life. So something was there. It wasn't just nothing. And so, how did you enter into the other world? Your biography, your development? So he's trying to ask her how she developed further from that young child. This didn't match. To go a little bit further, I was in a Waldorf kindergarten, and then I went to a state school, and my sisters were in the Waldorf school, but my mother decided she wanted to decide what it would be like to have us in a state school. And so I came to the state school after the Waldorf kindergarten, and this was okay. I left the gymnasium, and fatally, this was right next door to the Waldorf school, just a fence between them, and I felt completely in the wrong place. And also because of all the monthly festivals, I was always invited to my older sister's festivals each month, and I could have gone to watch the eurythmy, and I just thought, what am I doing here in the state school? Why do I have to torture myself here? It could be very different. And there, the wish already came into being. I didn't know that I would study eurythmy, but I wanted to see angels flying across the stage. And I thought, I also want to be an angel. So there you are, a very sensitive child. And with your sensitivity, with the Waldorf kindergarten and all the creativity around you, where you know that that is valued. And you said you were a trial child, and you were taken out of the Waldorf and to see what would happen. And what happened that this came about like this? Nobody asked me, what do you want? It was decided about me. It was decided by the parents and my older sisters. My older sisters always knew what I should be doing. Nobody asked me, how are you? What do you want? And a highly sensitive child wouldn't say anything. It always tries to fit in. It always wants harmony. A sensitive child wants harmony. And nowadays, I still feel that I should be the one to create the harmony in the family. But I know by talking to other highly sensitive people that this can be a task where I'm called to bring harmony. And highly sensitive people need a challenge in order to speak, in order to express themselves. And I still experience this in my courses, that there's space for the highly sensitive people, that one would ask them to speak, ask them to express themselves when there are trustworthy parameters. And in the last conversation that we had with Anna Heinze on partnership, what I noticed afterwards, what are your needs? Step one. And the second, to learn to communicate them. So that connects us to this conversation from last time, what you've just described of your experience with other highly sensitive people. And so you were a highly sensitive person at a school and you looked across this fence, and despite all of this, you studied eurythmy. And your last work was survival pictures, survival images. And one sees that you have walked a path. And what is it that lives behind these survival images? And if you're not seen, if you're not heard, and not asked, how are you? Then at some point, your body also blocks, your body also jams. And the result is that there's a trauma. And I was often very ill. Often I was ill for a long time. In the kindergarten, I always had, it always got up my nose. And then other illnesses came, and I had the feeling that I was invisible. I was completely invisible. And that was a feeling that is not quite so easy to hide. Nobody would see this. At least I didn't see this. I just noticed I was ill in some way. And people said to me, "You're very sensitive. You're from a different star." Can you please share this bridge between being invisible and being ill? So I think this can be very different in different people. with us highly sensitive people, I think each person would define this in a different way. Being invisible, I had the feeling that I wasn't being seen in my family, and that, of course, was my basis. I was not seen, I was never asked. And afterwards, when I was looking at my biography, I was invisible. I felt myself invisible. I didn't know how to behave, and so I behaved invisibly. There was this situation, not a very nice one. There was a large family festival, lots of people came, and a photo was made. And in this photo, we all stood there, and we all were there on the, and one of the wives, one of the husbands of my sisters said, "You must leave. You don't belong here." And it was amazing. And when I tell this now, it's a very intimate thing, so I find it quite difficult. You don't belong here. That was terrible. And there was nobody who saw my pain. My mother didn't catch me at this point. My mother didn't pick up the pieces. No one else picked up the pieces. I cried and I ran off. I didn't stay. I'm saying I'm staying here. You run away as a highly sensitive person. Nowadays, of course, I wouldn't do that. And these are these moments when you know about your highly sensitiveness and you know about the traps in this and you've worked through them, then you can solve this. Then you can behave in a different way. But at that moment, you can't do anything different. And so, consequently, your path, you had to follow your path intuitively, feeling along, feeling your way. And out of this illness, you made the decision to do eurythmy. Because I'm ill, I'm going to go to eurythmy. I want to fly like an angel over everybody. So the cares are down below on the earth, and I'm flying in the air like an angel. I saw the angels flying around on the stage, these pretty, pretty things. And it went so deeply into me. And of course, later on, I had to unpack this. How do I survive? When you're a child, you have to learn to survive. And you asked me, how did I become a teacher, an official teacher? I wanted to learn art, and I went to various art schools. And then I chose one of them, and I chose art. It was called Art and Handwork. And later on, it was restructured. And then I had to choose another subject, which I could choose: English, religion, politics. There were probably other choices. And I thought, what is the smallest amount of work? So I thought I'd study politics. art and politics. And so I threw myself into this training and I managed this very, very well with bravura, but I really didn't want to do this. I wanted to be an angel through flying through space. And that's what you did after that. So after my training, I decided to go to a eurythmy school, and that wasn't very easy. I wrote a rather unusual application. I took a long roll, and I thought, if they accept me, then this must be a good school. Because if so much is accepted that is different, then it must be a good school. And it was a good school. I just wasn't that far. I had to stop. I stopped the training because I thought my creativity was not able to be fulfilled. I didn't want to just copy. I wanted to try something myself. So going back to the bridge of intuition and highly sensitive people, you're feeling something very sensitive and you're actually sensing something very sensitive. And so you saw something where other people hadn't seen anything. People didn't think that there was angels on the stage, only you thought that. And now you're doing this and nothing could really develop out of this eurythmy training. And so again, with your highly sensitive being, you couldn't progress. I was stuck once again. So I had the feeling there was a lot that I didn't understand. And that was my head talking. I didn't feel comfortable. And yet I decided to leave. If I'd been more thinking of myself, more self-managing, I would have found something that would have supported my creativity, where I could actually live my creativity and develop intuition more. To find an area, one has to find this transition. So I did a lot of theater work, drama, experimental dancing. I tried a lot of different things. I was rolling around on the floor. I was screaming. I was bashing pillows. I was able to try out all sorts of things and feelings, all sorts of feelings, all sorts of different techniques in theater. And the more extreme, the better. So just to be clear, you were at a place where I'm going to go because something is there that I want. And yet you chose to leave it. And then you describe the theater work. And there is where the intuition going into the extremes. And so at this point, you open this world that you are getting a feeling for the space. And I had the feeling I'm living a life of discovery. I was in I was discovering, I was playing, I was experimenting. I would enter a space where there was nothing, and I could try and see what was in me. What can I feel? What can I sense? Do I sense something? Do I perceive something when nothing's there? And then I understood that I didn't have to look for this outside. I have it all within me. I got closer and closer to my true self in experimenting, in playing, in listening to this sensitive, listening into my inner soul, which as a child I'd always done, but now doing it consciously with a clear aim. So listening into oneself, so going into the extremes, bashing pillows and then listening so carefully. We have these antennae. We highly sensitive people have extreme antennae. And that's what's so special. That's what's so different. And you think you have more senses. You read a lot more, not just outside, but also on one's inner world. And you know what's going to happen in a week. You know what is coming. And I'm not reading about looking into the future, but you connect yourself. You connect yourself with the universe, with the cosmos. And so it's in you. You know what is coming. You know what's going to happen next week. And so now, through this searching, through following one's intuition, that we enter into this space and we have to have this blank page. Is this a connection to this empty space that you're in? And I would like to recommend that to be able to feel something, to be able to perceive it, you have to be empty. But you let go, you allow. So I would recommend we do an exercise from eurythmy, and I will show you what the movements are like. And then you can follow me and do it at your speed, in your way. You have to have a little bit of space. You have to push your chair aside and come along. So now we see Bettina's studio. There's a little bit of an echo. The light isn't perfect. So the body needs to understand what it needs to do. And I will show you this once. You don't yet have to do anything. You can just watch. And now I'll show you from the side. So you drop your head and you bend your knees at the end. So now, if you want to switch your camera off, you may do that just to do it for yourself. Otherwise, you can leave your camera on. And I will say, speak. In letting go, I receive power. In letting go, I gain power. In letting go, I gain power. And now feel how that feels. How are you now? How do you feel now? And so take the piece of paper and write what you are feeling now. So, the task is to become a vessel. When a chalice or vessel is full, it can't be filled anymore. So, to find as many things and tasks, how do I empty my vessel? Don't think. Have an empty head, have an empty space. And this works sort of with meditation. And there are also other possibilities, like doing a review of the day in the evening, to sit down and think, to go through one's day backwards, to think oneself through one's day backwards, to go back down to naught, to zero. And to ask the question, how do I get there? Because if I have the empty space, if I am empty, then that's when you hear the soft whispering that is there. But when we have too much, and when we sleepwalk through the world, we don't hear this silent whispering. And imagine the world, if you think of the world as a challenge, and you pack a little small package, and you want to open this package, but you can't open it. So you have all these little packages which are going past on the, like in a factory, where all these little boxes are made, but you can't open this box when your vessel is full and when you're outside of yourself and always rushing around. So you try and open the package and you don't hear this whispering, this quiet whispering. I'd like to ask a question. Sarah described this. If I think it was where you spoke about this inner space, she says, yes, we know about this, but we need to learn to trust. And now you've just nodded. But what about this trust? How does this work? Try it out. You hear something in you, you follow it. Courageously try it out. Try out what you hear, what you see, what you feel. Try it. Be courageous. Try again and again. And then you will notice how you come closer to your real self, how you trust yourself, and how you can trust yourself. And you don't need anybody from the outside telling you how things happen, because you have everything inside of you. That means you need to be courageous. So I've done a teacher training, I've done a therapeutic training, I've done an artistic training. And at the age of 40, I decided to become a clown. And I had the feeling, when I speak about it to people, people say, gosh, I wouldn't have that courage. Yes, it was. I did need courage. And it was the most amazing step that I ever made. And I had this feeling, that which seemed to be all the different parts of me standing next to one another, teacher, art, therapy, everything came together. Everything was unified. The clown is everything at once. you arrive in situations where you think this is like therapy. As an artist, of course you're a clown. You're a clown as an artist. And of course you're always teaching. And at last, all of these three came together that were standing one next to another. Even as I studied art, and then I studied art of movement, and then I asked myself, why do these three stand next to one another? It's only when they all work together that that's what makes us a whole person. The sounding together, the working together. And you have an example? One feels a lot of aspects of you, and then you think, oh, that could flow together in this way. And you trusted to follow this. It was in intuition. I followed my intuition. Up to that point, intuition had, sorry, I'm being so impolite, jumping in. But this is when it goes ping, and you realize I have to do this. And you're following it in an intuition. You didn't sit down and think, oh, a clown would be all three. But something just happened, and afterwards you realize this. So to enter into this, the more you work in the space, the more trust you will have, the more security you will have to listen to your inner voice. And then at some point you notice your head can switch off more and more. You answer your questions not just with your intellect. I mean, the intellect has always got something to say, so you won't ever lose it. Even during the day, I know I'm following intuition. My head always has something to say about it. But if you follow this path consequently and you trust it, then you don't have to put things there yourself. You have the feeling, I am empty. There is nothing. So you asked us to bring 2 empty pages, and the first one we've probably filled by now. And so you brought this keyword. Oh dear, the screen has frozen. Aha. So imagine you're looking out of an aeroplane onto the earth, and you see the coast, the line of a coast. And you see it as a curved line. And these curves, you paint these curves. You paint these curves on the paper, and don't think about where do I want them to be. How can I put them exactly? You just allow your pen to just follow, to just flow along from the left to the right. And so you can draw many lines on this paper. And this was maybe what it'll look like. And this is maybe what it could be. Maybe you have 3 or 4 different coastlines. And one calls these sometimes bionic lines, bionic curves on the paper. At peace, attentive, looking or not looking. yes, you want to see, you can look at what you're doing. And these lines can cross one another. So I'll show you. So these lines could cross one another. So you know the principle of mind mapping, where you do many circles around a concept, and you can use this to switch off your head. And this is a different kind of a method, the neurographic line. And there's a Russian architect and psychologist who found this quite a while ago. And this is a very good way to just switch off the head. And if you imagine you have synapses in your head and they are all networked, and what you're doing with these movements, these where the meeting points come, where the lines cross one another, and this you can increase these meeting points. So you round them out, no more crossings, and rounding them to round them out, there are there's a new networking in your brain. And you find new solutions. You switch off, and in a completely new way, you find solutions. Your brain comes onto a different level. A wonderful tool to enter into a different world, in the world of intuition. So there are different exercises that one can write down, that one can work with and try out. So one continues on this so that you end up with something like this. And you see what an amazing amount of networking can take place. So you're creating new possibilities in your brain. So you can read about this neurographics. This is a wonderful tool to enter into this other world. And because I come from the art side of things, this line is very close to me, and this is not an artistic work, but this is a tool to be used, and maybe it turns out to be a piece of art, but that's not its main drive. So a pen and a piece of paper, and then a few colored pencils. And with the rounding out of the square crossings, this shows you another possibility. It's the bionic line, and it comes from nature. Well, I could spend a whole evening telling you more and more and more. I have been thinking, yes, you brought quite a few examples. What is this? What is it that goes through the experience? And we decided that we would not have these three different aspects separately, but to meet in this mood of quiet. And there's this space that has been built up. And there was this lots of space around in your childhood. So this empty space, that you had quite a lot of extremes in your childhood, that something in between was opening up. So not to feel that I'm squashed into the middle, so I can trust, and then I can swing with this, I can resonate with this. And this space, to enter a space of quiet, consciously or unconsciously, something comes that is connected with trust. When we were speaking about courage, I was a bit stuck, because when we think of courage, but we actually need courage. We need to believe ourselves, to believe our own voice, that I am listened to. And to create new spaces, we should always just open new intuition. Is there some closing word that you would like to bring? So we haven't done this exercise of letting go that I thought of, but when you're putting this into words on paper, as you asked us to, a lot happens. And you've given us these tools in this very brief time, and you've described the places where this takes place. So is there anything that so this space between, this is a very good definition for this, and I would like to share with how I landed here in eurythmy, because there's 30 years difference. And I was always looking for the space between. And I have built things up in a completely new way since my burnout. Eurythmy also is a space between. The tools that I've experienced 3 years ago, where I did this highly sensitive person's course, in this experimental mode, something triggered, something happened. The way we've built this up, the way we're going to do it in the course, these points come to resonate. All these different qualities, all the qualities that are needed. Discovering, unpacking little boxes. My vessel is empty. I stand between heaven and earth. But for 30 years, I taught yoga, I taught dance. But one thing is quite clear, that because of this eurythmy exercise, because I can stand in this space, I have an unbelievable inspiration from outside to inside and from inside to outside. And I can feel this. And I haven't seen this in any other technique. And this is something so special, because when the course is built up in this way, and we're right at this point now, and then one has to say, what did I have to practice until then? And after 30 years of walking this path, to go to somebody where I find a beginning, that was amazing. And that's what I call intuition. So if we allow this movement, this figure 8 movement, and then we can learn a way of touching, that we are then touched. I'm not quite sure what my heart opens for, but yes, my heart does open. That the human being knows so much and has so much. And they are just such simple things that touch us so deeply. One can be amazed. So be amazed at what is possible. Bettina, thank you so much for our journey, and for the other people listening. And thank you very much for this caring, for this sharing, and we hope to hear from you some more. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. Thank the translators. Thank you, Igor. Thank you, everyone who's participated.